And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Sir, could you please sign in?
Please sign in.
Please sign in, sir. Thank you.
And may we have the roll call?
Trustee Clark?
Present.
Trustee Drapka?
President accounted for.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Present.
Trustee Lufer?
Present.
Supervisor Wilt?
Present.
Let the record know Clerk Blough's in attendance also.
Thank you. The minutes of the October 10th meeting are in your packets. Are there any points of discussion? And I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the October 10th, 2017 board meeting.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion, any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor? Signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Communications.
We have one communication from the Riverside Public Library. They wanted to thank us for our generosity during the year of 2017 and for funding the purchase of the Kindle, the projector, and the big screen, which has enhanced their collecting, the collection offerings of the library. And they wished us happy holidays.
Thank you. Okay, visitors' remarks. I would like to note that there's one item of discussion that's missing. There's no vote to be taken tonight, but I managed to not get onto the agenda that we have a representative from Riverside TV here as well. Okay. So I will entertain any visitors that have comments on any of the subjects that they wish to discuss, other than grants, which we will address in just a short time. So do we have someone regarding Riverside TV? Would you come on up? Thank you.
Excuse me, Ms.
Would you please sign the
sign
sheet at the table?
Thank you.
I'm Greg Gorski. I'm the chairman of the Riverside TV Commission. And I'm here to talk to you guys and answer any questions you might have about what we're doing for the meetings for the township and what we can do to maybe enhance those as we move forward.
Very good. There was some discussion a few months ago about obviously the relative cost and whether we're getting everything that we should and how else we can basically optimize our relationship with Riverside TV.
Right. Okay.
So, did you have a presentation first a little bit?
Well, yeah, well, just to okay.
Before we start, do we need a motion to put this on the agenda, since it's not?
It's not, but we're not voting on anything tonight,
okay.
so
Right.
Right, it's really under visitors' comments, and we
Okay.
had asked them to be here. Thank you.
Well, what I have is just a little recap. In 2013, we started to shoot the meetings for the township. And we started out with $1,500 for doing the 12 meetings. That went up to $1,750 in the following year, and then in 2015 it went to $2,450, and that was kind of, well, personnel cost went up a little bit, but we also in the beginning just kind of underestimated a little bit, so we made that adjustment. And then in 2016 the fee went to $5,000 for the 12 meetings. But then that also included, what we did is, the meetings are now live, and they're live on both Comcast Channel 6 and AT&T Channel 99, as well as on YouTube. They're on YouTube live, and you can go to the Riverside TV Commission website, which is riversidetv.us, and you can watch those. People are watching that right now. It also includes 4 special shoots for events or lectures that you guys have. and we shoot those for you. So that kind of explains why the jump at that point. Moving forward, what we had discussed, and I had talked briefly with Tom about it, and also discussed it with the commission, is how we can enhance what we're doing for you guys. And we had talked about doing maybe 12 public service or commercials for the township. That could be either a recap or however you guys wanted to do it. And we could shoot that either before your meeting or after your meeting, you know, just shoot it up and talk about it. If there's any visuals that you want to include, you can give those to us. And then we'll run those throughout the month to let people know when your meetings are and what's going on. So it would be, you know, we'll do a title screen for it, maybe, you know, Riverside Township Review or something like that. And that we could, we talked about it and we decided that we could include that and maintain the same fee. We could also do, which Tom and I had discussed a little bit, maybe a feature program on some of the initiatives of the township. If you have something, you know, like the enhancement of the usage of the township hall, if you wanted to do something like that, if you had a PowerPoint or if you had some graphics to go along with it, you know, maybe we could film in the building, something like that, and talk a little bit about, you know, plans for some major moves that you guys want to make. And, you know, so if you guys have any questions or...
Well, I love the idea of publicizing what the township is doing, both with the PSAs and with those 4 special meetings, maybe have one focus on the food bank, you know, and then another one. I think what the commission's trying to do is to create a local channel, and I think what we can provide is those human interest stories. So I think there's a lot of content that we can provide to you guys while you guys give back to us by publicizing what we're doing. I think there's a great relationship that we can build there.
Right. And if you did want to go beyond the 4 and we wanted to do something that was dedicated, you know, aside from those, you know, there would be an additional fee to that, but probably somewhere $750, $800, something like that, to produce a full program.
Do you have the information about which programs, those additional ones that you've broadcast?
I don't offhand, but I can get back to you guys. I can email you, Vera. Or...
Trustee Clark?
When we do speaker events, they take those
Okay.
for us. So those were generally one.
So there have been a few this year that were done?
We didn't do a major speaker event.
Okay.
I don't think this year, but like if they, when I've arranged guest speakers, they've done it, and then I think Ian did something from ComEd that they did.
The plaque for Judy Topinka.
The plaque for Judy Topinka, yeah.
And also for Scuffy, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those events, okay.
Right. So.
Very good.
Do you know how many viewers you get for the township meeting?
We don't have feedback from either Comcast or AT&T, and we're working on that to try and get some information back from them. But
How about hits on YouTube?
we do, and I can forward you guys that information.
Yeah, that was my question, Trustee Heilenbach. I've seen the insights on the YouTube videos themselves. Does that include, which pretty dismal, does that include like live, or is that not included in the YouTube that's posted and then watched over and over again? Do those hits count?
I don't know if live is included in that, but again, I can check on that. I'll get you guys information.
I have for, you know, when we brought this issue up, you know, we've got a lot of seniors in our township. And I know of 2 of them that are watching it right now, which is my mom and dad. But I mean, you know, several of the seniors that I've talked to have said, you know, I watch those meetings fairly regularly. So, you know, I wish we could get a count of how many people are watching it, but I think it's good, and I like your idea. I really do.
I know that Riverside President Sells does watch it because he often comes in after he's watched it to comment on some of the things that went on.
Right.
Right, yeah, yeah, I think it's a, you know, it's a nice enhancement for the community, so, and we appreciate you guys supporting it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there a library kept of the meetings anywhere for a duration of time, or are they?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go on the website, on the Riverside TV website, you can go back and you can look at the township meetings, and there's a lot of meetings there.
We should.
Do you know how long of a duration of time?
Well, so far, since we started doing it, I don't know if that goes all the way back to 2013, but pretty close. I mean, it's quite a few, there's quite a few meetings there, yeah, so people can go
I
back.
hadn't looked, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Could we link to those on our website?
Mm-hmm. You can link to, right, you can link to YouTube also and have those viewable on your website.
I think we may already, I don't know if we have the capacity for actual links, but I think so.
Not yet.
Any other questions?
No, that's very good. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
All right, well, thanks, we look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Are there other visitors that are here for anything other than grants?
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the same. All right, then. Then, I don't think that these other reports will take terribly long, so I think I would like to move up the grant requests, though. Actually, if we could address those now, is there any objection if we move the agenda items for grants up to now? Okay. Then let's flip to that tab under new business. And the first grant request we have is from Aging Care Connections. Do we have a representative of Aging Care here? No? Okay. You have the grant request in front of you. They are a 501c3. We have a supporting letter of request besides the application itself for a grant request of $5,000. It appears that we already gave $1,000 for Aging Well Month in this year. Last year, there was a total of $5,000 in grants, and the year before that, there was a total of $4,500 in grants, a special one for Senior Week and otherwise the annual grant. What is your pleasure?
I have a question. Did we give them money through the mental health board?
We did. We gave them for Aging Well Month.
Mm-hmm.
And that was we purchased an ad in their book, and I believe it was for $500. But this is a grant that they get from our township pretty much every year for their funding of their Aging Well Month was just a 1 month deal where they went every day.
Right.
This is to help them go throughout the year.
Would it be better submitted to the mental health board than to us?
It's not all mental health. I
That's
think that
exactly right.
there's so many services that are not mental health that I don't think it would be appropriate for us to put that all through there.
I make a motion that we approve this grant of $5,000
Second.
to Aging Care.
I jumped the gun, second.
Any discussion? I have a motion and a second to grant the requested amount to Aging Care Connections, $5,000. Hearing no discussion. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item is the Beds Plus Care. Is there anyone present from Beds? Okay. Do you want to give any kind of a?
Sure.
You could lift that up if it's, I'd hate to have you hunched over.
You have to stay that way.
That's set for somebody my height.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to say a couple of words. I want to thank the township for its past support. Members of your township have been instrumental in creating BEDS, and for those of you who don't know, BEDS is a social service agency that works with emergency shelter prevention and housing, and we serve Riverside, Stickney, Lyons, Orland, Palos, and Worth Township. So we kind of hug Cook County on the southwest side. So we have a grant request in for $3,000. You've been a faithful supporter of the organization. I am here today because I hear you've got a new supervisor. I wanted to introduce myself and just tell you in the grant request you'll see our annual budget. We estimate that about 16% of the people that we've served over the last couple of years have been from Riverside Township, totaling just over 100 people. We have expanded in this last year to do a permanent supportive housing development, which you may see driving down Ogden Avenue. We'll start accepting applications for that on January 9th, and there's 20 units. So that's a little bit about us. What you may not know is we are known for our sheltering services, but we also provide significant prevention program, which helps us, like your emergency funds or like St. Vincent de Paul funds within a church, that we help prevent people from falling into homelessness, people who are behind on their rent, people who are behind on their mortgage. And then we have a number of permanent supportive housing programs aside from the sheltering system.
The new place on Ogden Avenue, you said there's 20 units there? Are those
Yes.
going to be like studio apartments for
Yeah.
people? They are, okay.
They're approximately 400 square feet, so they'll be single units for individuals. And the people that qualify are individuals who are homeless, literally homeless, who have a documented disability, and they need to show up on the 9th of January at 10 o'clock at the site, and we'll be accepting the first 100 applications, and there's an interview and vetting process.
Okay.
So
Are they have little kitchens in there?
they have kitchenette,
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 okay.
their own bathrooms, and then our offices will move from 2 different churches into the first floor. So we also have a second office in Worth because we have a shelter system based in Oak Lawn as well.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion regarding this grant application for $3,000.
I make so moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Drapka, to approve the $3,000 grant to Beds Plus Care. Any discussion? Then we'll call for the vote.
Trustee Wolford?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. All right. Next item is the Riverside Chamber of Commerce for the holiday walk, holiday stroll, rather. Never get that terminology right. And this would be to pay for part of the entertainment that is actually performed in our facility in the auditorium.
The
Is there
magic
a-
show, am I right?
Yeah. This is a big draw. I think they do 2 shows.
They do the 2 shows, and
Okay.
then also the, is it the Hauser choirs, I think? There's some student entertainment as well
Okay.
in between, but yes, there's at least 2 shows, and we also have purchased, just out of our regular budget, some small items for the kids that come in here.
Giveaways.
Yes.
All right, I make a motion that we grant $500 to the chamber Riverside Chamber of Commerce to provide costs for a magician performing at the holiday stroll.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by trustee Clark, seconded by trustee Heilenbach. And is there any discussion?
We will get a sponsorship or a tagline or.
They list all the sponsors on there.
So, well, technically it's a grant. They're giving us sponsorship props, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
do
they
put
list,
some-
yeah, they
list everybody
they include
that's helped
everyone.
them out. This is presented by, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do we know what, like, the budget is for the holiday stroll at all? Or, I mean, are all the businesses kind of like pitching in for the most part, or how does it, what are the financials?
So there are
on it?
certain items that they can sponsor, like we're sponsoring this. And then a lot of the businesses simply make their places available with different kinds of things. Some may have a Santa photo, some may have elves there, some are serving punch, some are, giving out cookies, some have little toys.
Sure.
So it's a community event that tries to bring some attention to the community.
It's very well done. They do a real
It's the
nice
second
job.
Oh, yeah.
best day in Riverside.
No, I know, I know, but but I was just wondering about the finances on how it works, do the businesses pretty much take it on themselves and then?
The chamber publishes a map of the stores that are
Right.
open and what's going to be there. And then you can pay like a sponsorship fee to be on that
Gotcha,
map.
okay.
So,
Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor, so I will ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Trustee Clark?
yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes,
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes,
Motion carried.
very good. Now we have a request from Hauser Junior High, the school drama program. And you'll note that I also have, there's also attached the items to be purchased with the grant, and there's some correspondence because of our recent approach to things and looking for a 501c3 or some other structured organization. I did run it by the attorney, and so you see there also his commentary where he didn't see that there was, unless we have some specific rules against it, that it was within our realm. Do we have a representative here from the theater sponsors? No? Okay.
This is also going to Hauser to,
Right. It's a,
program that's.
right, I mean, it's a small grant. We've actually purchased similar items for them before, and it's basically to purchase the tools so that they continue to do it and build their sets and so forth. And it seems that the organization, although loosely structured, has been around for a while and has gotten grants previously. Well,
I don't think it's the.
no, it's not, no, it's not the theater group, right,
Hauser.
right. No, but the drama program did get something earlier in the year. You'll see on the second page where it says previous grants approved, the drama program did receive it because they purchased more of these drill and screwdrivers, more of this exact same equipment previously, and they just find that they have so many volunteers that they need more tools, which is a good problem to have.
On this, would the check be made out to Hauser, or would it be made out to,
this
Good
looks like
question.
Home Depot or something.
Trying to identify how we did it last time. I think we may have purchased it directly for them. Yeah, they're asking for it to be written to the organization in the name of the coordinator.
To Amy?
Yes.
Don't we have a rule about the number of grants per year?
It's
I
two.
thought that was on the new application.
Yeah, and so for this program, technically, this is a separate group.
Sure.
So this would be the second. Otherwise, we have contributed to the marching band and the Cougar Advance program. So they're different organizations that support the students.
I would be comfortable with this and willing to make the motion if we either bought it for them or we made the check out to Hauser.
Okay. All right, I will let them know that. Is that the feeling?
Yeah, I would say buy it for them.
Yeah.
Because if
I
it
think
goes
it's
to
the preferred
Hauser,
way, right.
you know,
Because I don't want it to get lost in everything else,
There you
because
go.
this is, it seems like it's a very much of a volunteer program, and it's not structured.
and it
so
has
much.
156 township kids participating in this program, and it's free to them.
No.
So it seems like it's a pretty popular program, but heck, I'll go and get it if we have to.
I think we can manage.
You could probably get it on sale.
Right.
They're having a lot of Black Friday sales.
That's true,
Home
take
Depot,
advantage of
they have- I
it.
was just there. They have all these, things under black plastic wrap to surprise us.
Yeah, shrink wrap, so, yes.
To surprise us for Black Friday. So I would make a motion to grant the Hauser Drama Club the amount of $220 for the screw guns, as long as the township buys it for them and they can come and pick it up, or we can drop it off.
I'll second.
Very good. So we have a motion to purchase the screw guns as requested in the amount of $220, provided that the township pays for them directly. And that would be the motion. Are there any questions or any discussion? Then Clerk Blau, would you please call the vote?
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And finally, we have the Riverside Community Garden. We had a presentation previously on this, and now we have a formal grant request. Is there someone here to speak to that? Okay.
I have one question, and that is that, last time we had representatives here, it was represented that it's kind of a horse carriage, chicken egg kind of a situation, that the villages would go forward if the money were there. I've heard from the village that that's not exactly what they said, that they have not gone to that point of saying, oh, sure, we'll do it if you get the money. So do you have any more information on where that all stands?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are, yes, I'm Elaine Ruggless. So we have taken this to the Parks and Recreation Board, and we are waiting for input from them. After they have agreed to get behind using village land, we're specifically looking in Patriots Park, then this is going to go to the village for approval of using their land. So we're coming to you today without that decision being made, asking for this contingent on the use of Patriots Park. And if that doesn't go through, then we will not use the grant until we have a different location. And we were asked to come forward with as much funding behind us as we were able to. So we have a number of community individuals, a number of businesses in the community that have promised funding or in-kind goods, but we haven't collected anything yet because we don't have land yet. So yes, it is that chicken and the egg situation somewhat.
So the 2,000 that you say it was either received or promised, you actually don't have any of that in hand yet?
Well, we have received garden plans. So that was a donation, and we have garden plans which we presented to the parks and to the village board, and that was actually received. And then we have a number of others that have been promised, yes. So things like lumber, we can't collect that until we have land.
Sure.
Lumber, soil, mulch.
And the fundraising event that is planned, is that in the works?
Yes. That, we don't have a date set, but we're again waiting for a specific piece of land. And we have a plan that we will launch once we have a specific piece of land and a way to move forward. We don't really want to collect any money or any fundraising until we know for certain that it's going to happen, which is contingent on the land.
Where are you planning to store the stuff like the wheelbarrows, the tools, the hoses, watering cans?
So in some, either a shed or a sort of half shed constructed.
And will that be locked?
If it needs to be, yes.
And then would the people that are doing the garden there, they would all have keys to this?
I don't really know the answer because we haven't figured that out yet, but most likely things like hoses and wheelbarrows would not be locked. And if we needed to put something in locked, we would put a combination lock on it that everybody then had the combination to.
The drawing does show a storage shed as part of the...
Yes.
Yeah.
And that drawing was based on a specific piece of land on Burlington, which is no longer available. So
that would be modified?
yeah, that would be modified based on...
the shape of the land you're actually looking at?
Yes. But that gives you a very good idea of what we're thinking of putting in there and the size and scope and the types of plants and the breakup between individually rented beds and beds that are either for community picking or to go into the food pantry.
Okay. Have you gotten anything from the village about when they're thinking about saying yay or nay?
Well, the process, as far as we know, is that the Parks and Recs Board has to agree to it in their November meeting.
Okay.
And after that, we then have to go to the village board along with Parks and Recs.
Okay.
Do you have actual people that you know of that are gonna be using this to grow food?
We've had over 20 people sign up as volunteers, yes.
As volunteers to grow food or volunteers to work in the garden or?
As everything, we have not started actually renting beds because we don't have beds yet.
And how many of these beds were you gonna rent?
19.
You're gonna rent 19 to people that can't have a garden. And then where were the community beds gonna be?
They are the ones in the front,
They're the ones in the front?
yes.
So my question here is, did the Parks and Recs say to you to come with the funding, or, because to me, I don't know how the Parks and Recs of the Village of Riverside really works, but I'm under the impression that when plans are submitted, the Parks and Recs Board has to decide whether or not to go ahead and do it, and then it goes to the Village of Riverside. I don't know where does the, excuse me, where does the funding come into play there? I mean, where does the funding come into play? Does the Parks and Recs want to see that funding? Does that have anything to do with their vote on the plans, or?
It does not have anything to do with the vote, but yes, they asked us to go ahead with this process simultaneously to them.
I just feel that this is a lot of money for something that is not firm yet. I'd rather see us, I think this is a good idea, but I'd rather see us give this money in stages rather than 5,000 all at once. Plus, do you have, are you a 501c3? Or do you have a separate checking account?
Not yet.
Not yet. Then plus I also feel that this plan that you gave out last year is very, very elaborate for something we don't know is going to be successful. I'd rather see this taken maybe in stages, like the picnic area and the grill, and the bird bath, rock garden.
Trustee Clark, I think what the drawing is more of a
Wish list.
conceptual drawing of what it might be, what could be. I design landscapes all the time, we throw everything in there and then start picking things back out. So this obviously isn't designed for Patriots Park, and I'm sure it won't look like that when it's done at this point.
My question is the need. Is there a need for a grill? Is there a need for picnic tables right at the beginning? The bird bath rock, is that really a need? And as I said, I think $5,000 is a lot of money for something that I don't think is quite firm yet. I'd like to, to see this, become a 501c3.
So maybe, why don't we pass a resolution of support or an opinion of the board or something like that. I don't think at this state I'm not comfortable saying here's $5,000, go play with it. But I understand your need to have our support to get the other governmental agencies on board. So maybe we table the grant, but in exchange, pass some sort of resolution of support. Is that?
But that resolution of support would have to be based on some conditions.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee this until we, see that they have a separate checking account, that they're a 501c3, that maybe they can, rework a plan for Patriots Park and maybe, take it in stages. Once they get going, hey, if they need picnic tables,
Come get them.
I'm all for that.
Right.
And is there really, and I'd also like to see some people that are actually going to sign up, you said from the apartments, or, wherever, people that are actually going to, sign up and work the garden. I think, maybe it should be taken more in stages.
Our challenge is that the village asked us to come back with more information, and we're going to the village to ask if we can use their land. And we can't really get that information until we've got an agreement of a spot of land, right? I can sign people up as soon as we have land, when people know where it is, if it's going to be accessible and usable to them in that specific location. And then we will launch that process of signing up people and renting the beds, and we can pre-rent them as soon as we know that.
Okay.
And we're a little bit challenged in the village is asking us to come back with funds and support.
With pledges, at least.
Yes, yes.
So for us.
But I thought you said the village didn't really say that.
That's what they said that they didn't say, bring us the money and we'll get you the land. It was more like, well, let's see where you are, and they didn't even know if that was something that the community would accept. That was part of the problem. Might I suggest, and I know that establishing a 501c3 is a daunting idea. However, I would like to see at least perhaps a little bit more structured organization. Right now, I don't know, you indicate that you are a volunteer community club. Do you have officers? How many members do you have? Could you at least, and it really takes very little, to put together a registration of such a club with the Secretary of State, where you would be, basically you would be incorporated as a not-for-profit. doesn't mean you have huge corporate papers. It means you have officers, you have so many members, you have a structure, you have some bylaws or some kind of rules and regulations by which you operate. And with that, then you might be able to open up an account and, you know, have some more structure to it. Right now, I think it's a wonderful idea, but I don't think that there's enough structure for you to get credibility with either the village or with the township or perhaps even other donors, because it seems a little pie in the sky, perhaps.
It truly is not a very difficult process.
Right, I mean, I would like to see you take those steps before trying to get pledges of $5,000.
I agree.
It's a
with
substantial part of the taxpayers' money.
So this is our treasurer.
Okay.
So, Chris Tokars.
Okay.
I would just like to add that, yes, we do have an established board, we do have bylaws, and we have registered with the state and have a tax ID number.
Okay, you do? Okay.
Yes.
So, I tried to find you on CyberDrive, as a matter of fact, as recently as this afternoon, and I didn't see it yet on the Secretary of State's site.
Okay.
So.
A tax ID number probably that's a federal thing.
No, there's.
Isn't
No,
it?
it's-
Or is
No,
it?
you can get a tax ID number, that's an online process with the IRS.
Right, but that's
Yeah.
still federal, right? That
That's
might not
federal.
be
And
registering
that
with the
allows you to
state.
open up a checking
Yeah.
account, because you
Yes.
have to have a
Yes.
tax ID number. Okay, so you do have that. Okay.
But you're not registered with the state yet.
No, apparently.
So I don't recall where I obtained that from, but
The tax ID number.
yeah.
That's separate
definitely
than.
federal.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Okay.
an IRS thing, as
Okay.
opposed to registering with the Secretary of the State. I'd also, like to see this taken, as I said, more in stages, and maybe, build, maybe not, quite 19 this year. See how many people can sign up, how it does work, before you kind of go in wholeheartedly.
Okay.
That's my opinion as one trustee.
Yeah.
It's a real balancing act, I understand that. Are all the names that are on your application pretty much your group, or are there more people in this involved as well? I mean, you do have 8 people, 9 people listed here.
Right, so that's our board, and then we have other volunteers
Okay.
who have not specified how they're going to volunteer. So
Okay.
once we have specific things, then other people will be involved.
Do all these people, does your board all live in Riverside Township?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, how come the other piece of property that was discussed fell through? What happened with that?
It was too expensive.
Aha.
It was privately owned as well.
It was privately owned, yes.
So you would have had to have bought it, is that what it
Yes,
amounted to?
or rented it and paid taxes, and
Gotcha.
it was an industrial site, which was not conducive to building a garden. Yes, there were
Okay, that's good to know.
challenges.
Okay.
It's a great idea. And we do want to help you, okay? But like Trustee Clark and Supervisor Wilt have said, and Trustee Dropka, all of us, get a little more organized. You're on the right track. You've got the board of directors. It won't take much to get yourself a 501(c)(3), and that, I think, would help you. It would legitimize you before the Riverside board, maybe, okay? We're organized, this is what we have, and go on from there. But I can just tell you, I think it's a great idea, I really do. And I can only speak for me, but I think we'll be willing to help you along the way. But just a little more fine tuning on your organization. I mean, you're coming up through this, very quickly. I mean, you're going before the Recreation Board, what is that, the 20th, I believe, November 20th?
Well, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Did you go before them yesterday?
So how did that go?
Well, we already presented to them last month,
Okay, in October.
and they haven't put out their minutes yet from this month.
Okay, well, just go ahead and get a little more organized, and we'll be behind you, okay, a little bit.
So, just a clarification on what we're doing here then. Would we like to revisit Trustee Lumber's suggestion on a resolution and then table this until, next month and see where we're at? Or, I mean, what,
I think we should just table it. I don't really know if we need a resolution. Also, you know, I'd like to see your private fundraiser and see how much money you do raise on that.
Do you charge, I mean, do you have any funds right now? We have a treasurer here. Is there anything in the treasury? Are you?
No, there is not.
Okay, so we're at square one on
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yep.
So let's see, you know, and I think, you know, if you do hold that fundraiser, that will give us, and to see how much you raise, that will give us a good indication of how much of the community is behind you. Not to add any pressure to the fundraising.
Which we will do as soon as we know that we have land, because I don't want to raise money and put it in a bank account and then not be able to build a garden. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's money, and I don't want to collect community funds without knowing that I have the land. And once I have the land, then I know that I can make a garden happen. So that's just kind of why we're holding off and saying we're not taking anybody's money, we're just hold it in your pockets until we know we have the land,
Well,
and then we'll run.
So you will know that you will have the land by January 1st, right?
Or if you will have.
By January 1st, right?
Hopefully.
If the village makes a decision on that, yes. Which
Okay. And
is
you're
up to them.
expecting them to make the decision?
We are expecting that,
The
yes.
village board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you have to go back to Parks and Rec, or you've been to the village, you've been to Parks and Rec, and now you're going back to the village?
The Parks and Rec has to support it before it gets officially put on the village board agenda.
Okay.
So that's the next process.
So, and when is your Parks and Rec's meeting?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. But you don't know if they decided to support it or not? Okay. Isn't that taped? Is our Parks and Rec?
Was that not an open meeting?
It wasn't taped.
It wasn't taped? It wasn't an open meeting?
And I should have followed up on that today, so, sorry.
Okay.
You know, I think it's a great idea too. I especially like the tie-in with the food pantry. I see at the end of the day when we do our warrants, I think we can really use the community garden to help with our food pantry. So definitely let's support this, but I think we do need more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yes.
Well, so what I'm hearing is positive feedback, right? Which makes us very hopeful that we can bring this to the community. Is there something more official, though, that you can give us so that we can go to the village and say we think we have the funds to realize this, right? Because they're not going to give us land if we can't show the funding to make it happen.
We would have to do some kind of a contingent grant. That would, you know, first you need to do
either
A, B, and C.
contingent or a resolution or just something solid that we can show to the village of Riverside, because I don't understand how they're going to agree to give us land if we don't have the money to do anything with that land.
It's the chicken and the egg again.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I hear all your very positive comments. It sounds
something
like
in
if we were to
writing.
come back with a piece of land that you would give us the grant, but
Well,
the
once
village of
again,
Riverside needs to know that probably.
you know, $5,000 is a lot of money, and we don't think you're established enough to give you that amount at this time.
We
Did I
fully
state
agree.
that
Yeah.
correctly?
I mean, really, on another grant, you know, our legal advice was if the group is established for at least a year, then they have some validity. doesn't sound like you're at that point.
Because, yeah, we need the funding for startup, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, are there, do your members have the,
Okay.
belief in it to have contributed, to have paid some dues that would look like, look, this is our commitment. It's more than just our back, our labor, our goodwill. Look, here's $100, you know, towards it, something like
I
that.
fully understand, that's why I'm asking, could you put some contingencies on either the grant or a resolution to approve the grant at such time?
I don't think we have enough information right now
Okay.
to do that,
Because it would be for
you know.
unestablished location.
Right,
and
yeah.
Unestablished support of the community, and, you know, there's too many ifs on it, too many question marks.
I do understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what can we bring next time for more information? We can't give you land without the funds, so.
Well, if the village grants you the land, then we can, you know,
Move forward.
we can move forward with this.
If they would approve the concept and think that they could come up with the land, I mean, I can understand, they want to see that you have some funding. So do we. We want to make sure that our 5,000 isn't
Right.
the only thing that you're going to have.
Right. So would we ask the village on a contingency basis to give us the land, and then we come back to you and ask you then for the grant?
But, you know, once again, the $5,000, when a new site plan,
Okay,
you know, that would be helpful.
new site plan?
You know, based on the land that you got, but then once again, you know, maybe take this, you know, a little bit in stages, more so, you know, and get some people that are willing to rent,
Okay.
you know.
So a list of
And
names
then-
and addresses of people willing to,
Willing to
are interested,
rent.
okay?
And then, as I said, maybe, you know, see if you can cut some of this down, or
Sure.
get some of the watering cans, you know, get some of it donated, and really, you know, have kind of a solid plan. And then maybe, you know, we can give it to you more in stages.
Okay. We could even list that in a priority. We could
So-
break it down into,
Prioritize.
prioritize our list, what is definitely needed to get off the ground versus other items that we could add on later, like the grill. Like you-
The grill,
bird
the,
bath,
the
yes.
picnic tables.
Okay, so a new site plan, a list of possible renters, a staged approach project plan.
There is one bugaboo still, and that is the advice of our legal counsel, because for another
501c.
thing was to be eligible to receive funds from the township under this section, which is for various, it's the township code, what kind of services, and this would probably fit into environmental protection and health, I would say, public safety, environment. These are areas that we could submit for, or social services for poor and aged as well.
Okay.
To be eligible to receive funds from the township under this section, a private, not-for-profit organization or community service association shall have been in existence at least 1 year before receiving the funds. So our hands are somewhat tied by the law here as well.
Yeah.
We need to have some kind of an established organization
What
to
would,
grant this to.
so what would be that established date?
Well, what day?
Do you have
that-
original minutes of your first organization?
Yep, we do.
When you applied for your tax number, all of those factors would be part of that as well.
Okay,
And keep in mind, this isn't the only time of year that we do grants.
We do them 4 times a year, yeah.
Okay.
so.
February and May will be our.
Those are our next two. February is the
February
next
and May,
grant.
so you're right into the growing season in May.
yes,
February-
May's very important, yeah.
Maybe you'd be able to, you know, get some funding if you go in May, providing that we have all the documentation that we need. And like Supervisor Wilt said, by law, we have to do this,
Okay,
okay?
okay, anything else?
Anything else, ladies?
Can we do this without the 501?
The 501s, it's, you can do it without the 501c3 status, but you have to be registered with the state.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
On Cyber Drive?
Cyber Illinois, it's the Secretary of State's website.
Okay,
And on there, you search for whether the name is already taken by anyone, and then you can establish it. There's forms to fill out, same kind of information, who the board is and so forth. Then you will be established in this, for like a $5 fee a year. You then maintain your status. It's, like I said, it's not a terribly complicated thing. It can be done fairly quickly. But, and we wouldn't count that as the day of establishment if we can see like original establishment minutes, I would say, and see that the group has been put together for at least a year. Otherwise, our hands are tied.
And then also said your private fundraising, see how that goes. That's going to be a good indication on how much of the community is behind this.
okay.
I know this is disappointing.
I mean, it is, of course, but this is all great information that we are listening and making the mental list. That fundraiser part, as Elaine said, is very hard. When you say, we would like to, please give us money how do I give it back to them if this doesn't go through?
How about a pledge drive, some kind of promise, something,
Okay.
Churches do it all the time. If this happens, then,
I mean, you can do a fundraiser at Molly's for, not a lot of money and get all your friends there.
Okay.
All right.
all right.
Thank you. That's what.
Okay, so that finishes our grant request, so let's go back to our regular agenda as well.
We have our big check, do you want, that's quite a big,
Oh, for, which one, for?
Oh, yeah, we missed out doing that.
Well, we
But
didn't
there's
have the
nobody
grant.
here.
There's nobody here, we can do a
Well,
presentation.
that's Plus is here.
Oh, yeah. That's here.
I'm here from Aging Care Connections, I'm sorry.
Oh, you got your grant.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us anything about it? But we did approve a grant for you.
We should go get the big check. We could do the big check with beds.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
now
aging
aging
care.
care.
Yeah.
Where is the big
Yeah,
check?
Let me
let's
see
do
if
the
I
big
can
check.
find it.
That's what we got it for, right? Good call, Trustee Lumber. Good call.
All right, let's get back to our agenda.
Trustee Clark, did you say December 11th?
Actually, that's not really probably going to work for me. I think I have out-of-town guests that day. But I could do it the 13th or the 18th. We're talking about the Christmas party.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That both work for me.
I think I can't see the details. I'd be fine.
The 13th?
13th,
Kim?
That's fine.
Leanne?
it's a Wednesday night,
It's a
right?
Wednesday night, Wednesday the 13th? Okay.
What is that, a Wednesday night?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, wait, is that your mental health meeting? No, that's the 3rd, right?
That's
The third Wednesday.
Right, yeah,
Okay, this is the 2nd Wednesday.
that should be all right.
Okay.
I'll let them know.
Okay.
All righty.
So what's a good time? 6:30, 7?
7 would be better.
7? 7 o'clock, okay.
Okay. Very good. Shall we get back on agenda here?
Okay, are we
Thank
back
you.
on? Yeah.
Okay. All righty, supervisor's report, most of, it was just administrative stuff. There, you'll see some of the product, but I did attend the educational conference in Springfield. I was actually there for 4 nights, 4 days, because Saturday they did a general assistance workshop. And then I participated in various, Trustee Clark and I made sure that we went to different sessions on the breakouts so that we get as much coverage as possible. I will be bringing forth a couple of modifications, changes, suggestions based on that, but because right after I got back, we started working on the holiday meals, I haven't really put anything into action yet. One of the things that concerned me a little bit was that, and I think it's really just a budgetary thing because I don't think we actually fund anything from it, but our budget lists the food pantry under general assistance, and you're not supposed to pay for for food pantries out of general assistance. Surprisingly, it would seem that that's a logical place to have it. That's not appropriate, and by and large, it funds itself, so I don't think it's truly an issue, but we need to move that out of the budget. But there's some other things that I learned. Right, right, just a different place in the budget and just a general funds rather than general assistance. And other than that, I am also, because I was at that training and there's now a new manual, I would simply like to put into the record, similarly to the funding, that the Township Supervisors of Illinois have recently updated and revised the handbook for general assistance. So I, Vera A. Wilt, Supervisor of Riverside Township, Cook County, Illinois, do hereby approve and adopt the Township Supervisors of Illinois General Assistance Handbook as revised 2017 and declare that it shall be effective as of December 1, 2017, so that if there are any grants that are made this month, should there be anything that's in violation, we won't be in that situation. And I have signed it this day, this 21st day of November, 2017. Because I wasn't sure if they were changing the emergency assistance handbook, which they did not, I will simply now, because I've never done so, I will also now read this into the record, and that the Township Supervisors of Illinois have not revised the emergency assistance book, which was last revised in 2009. I hereby declare that I, Vera Wilt, Supervisor of Riverside Township, Cook County, Illinois, do hereby approve and adopt the 2009 edition of the Township Supervisors of Illinois Emergency Assistance Handbook, effective immediately, signed this 21st day of November. Simply, for the record, it's not anything that you folks have to vote on. I just have to make that part of, you can have, yes, you may.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so that's done. And other than that, I would just like to report that we may still get some stragglers coming in for the Thanksgiving meals, but as of the end of today's business day, we had put out 38 total holiday meals. We still have 7. We thought there was going to be an uptick because we put out about 39 last year, and we've had several new people coming in for food pantry, especially since our publicity went out with the newsletter. So if they still come in this week, we will hand those 7 remaining ones out. Otherwise, I understand that traditionally we have sometimes supplied whatever was left to the fire departments or the police departments, unless, I mean, I could also reach out to the social service people within the community, somebody at the high school, or Carol Spale from the North Riverside, see if anybody else could use that meal. I mean, at this point, it's a frozen turkey. We did, by the way, purchase also the freezer. That was a big help. It's in room 3. You can take a look at it. It helped a lot in keeping them from thawing to an inappropriate level. And yeah, that's about.
Did we purchase 45 turkeys?
We purchased 45. They were 10 to 12 pounders, and yeah. So we purchased 45 just to have them in case.
And 45 hams for Christmas, or we haven't,
Well, we'll evaluate that. We, you know, everybody who came in for the Thanksgiving one and everybody who comes in for general assistance is given a letter that we will be doing those.
Okay.
So we ask them to call in advance, but they don't always. We ask that they at least call an hour before they come so that we have it all ready. But it was all packed up, and you know, they all got a bunch of vegetables and sides. They also got some refrigerated items. They got one of the sides was dessert was a box of brownie mix, and so we gave them some whipped cream for that, and there was some kind of, I can't believe it's not butter type of thing, and what else? There was some other item, I forget now what it was, but there were several. Yeah, the rolls, I'm sorry, yes, the bakeable rolls, and so there were some refrigerated items, some frozen items, and some packaged items.
And you said 10 to 12 pounds?
10 to 12 pound turkeys.
That's a nice price then.
It was
No,
$1.
no,
I
the
couldn't get
pound
any of the
turkey.
big
No,
barn
no,
ones.
no.
Oh, yeah.
They were,
Okay.
$1.29 a pound was what I could get a commitment for. You'd be surprised, but it was hard to get anyone to commit to doing that. Wound up getting them at Tony's, as you can see, and they were very cooperative, but Aldi didn't want to commit because they knew they were going to be on a heavy sale, and corporate cracked down, and they were not able to, even though they do a lot of food pantry supplying, they could not, give me that price. I said, I'll pay your regular price, I just need to be guaranteed that I can pick up 45 turkeys on Wednesday, a week before. So anyway, Tony's was accommodating, and $1.29 a pound is what I paid for my own, so.
That's great, thanks,
Yeah.
Vera. I'm sure the people really
Good job.
appreciated it.
Yeah, all righty.
No.
Okay, moving right along, are there any reports from the trustees?
I also attended the meeting in Springfield, which was really, really good this year. I did learn a couple things. One is that we have to have a sexual harassment policy in place, I think 60 days after January 1st. The seniors are doing well. We had a great Veterans Day pizza party last week, and then our Christmas party is Tuesday, December 5th. Well, actually, it's a holiday party. At noon at the golf club, so if any trustees would like to come, just let me know so I can put you down.
Can you send that email?
I will send an email invite, yep.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, any other trustees have a report?
I have one thing, and I don't know if it's the proper location, but there's been a need that I do a lot of coaching, and everyone's always talked about bringing in the Red Cross to do some real first aid training above and beyond the regular old certification. And I was thinking that might be something that the township could offer. It is a free service, but there is some logistical support that's needed. Mm-hmm. Is that something, maybe invite all the little leagues and all the different teams from all their coaches from Brookfield and North Riverside and Riverside to a big 3-hour, 6-hour even Red Cross training.
And what kind of training would you do? Most of them have to be, if they're already coaches, they usually have to have the first aid training, and sometimes the AED
Well,
training.
it would be that kind of thing. It would be
Okay.
concussion aware training,
Okay.
identification. It would be CPR.
Mm-hmm.
It would be more of the advanced safety training, because a lot of the safety training you get as to be a certified coach is as superficial as it gets. And if some kid is down there, you got to give them CPR. The normal certification won't cover that. I just think it'd be a great service that the township could offer. It's free, but we'd have to. There's some work that goes into putting it on. We have the room upstairs, so I think we'd have hundreds of coaches come.
Well, the thing is, I have some experience from other organizations when because we had a facility, we scheduled that kind of thing and spread the word to many organizations, and basically nobody came. Our own coaches participated in it, but they didn't. So let's do, before we schedule anything like that, I'd like to do some groundwork. If any of you have groups somebody I should reach out to in a group, I'd like to have some kind of a commitment before we commit to doing that, because to get the instructors out for it, they like to see that there's actually somebody to train.
Right.
So, and again, they would have to sign up in advance, but it sounds like the kind of program that the township could certainly provide, and we could coordinate it, but I want to make sure that everybody hasn't just been certified and nobody needs it or whatever, so.
And again, it would be training that they wouldn't normally receive during their usual certification, so it'd be a higher level. Let's reach out and see what the level of interest would be. I know the Riverside Little League did it, and they had 15 coaches show up. It was more an abbreviated kind of thing, so that was like a 1 hour presentation. But I just think it'd be a nice service that we could offer, so I'll go ahead and get back to you on that.
Get me some names, some contacts to see if they would make a commitment to come.
Supervisor Wilt, can I say something else?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I feel kind of like that the township is kind of a little bit all over the highway recently, and I would like to see us do a branding, maybe marketing workshop and have an outside person lead us so that we can decide on things and really focus on what our strengths are. And that way, you know, we can focus maybe on the food pantry and mental health and then maybe some speaker sessions. But I do kind of feel, you know, that we're going all over the map. So I'm wondering how other people feel about that.
Have a little strategic planning type of a session.
Strategic
maybe
planning.
A SWOT analysis.
A SWOT, do people know what SWOT analysis are?
Strengths, weaknesses.
Assets, targets.
Strategic planning is my absolute favorite thing to do in the entire world.
Is it?
Why do I feel your tongue is strong, is firmly implanted in your cheek?
Poking out of
Yeah,
my
right,
cheek.
yeah.
But I do a lot of it, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
Tim? Oh,
That's
I'm sorry,
fine.
Trustee Hollenbach.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I do see your point on that. So I have no problem with strategic planning. I think it's.
Well, I think too, you know, it'd really help us, you know, as far as, you know, in every aspect of what we do, helping the township people, helping with the grants, and then, you know, developing the food pantry a little more. You know, getting the freezer was a great thing. Trustee Drapka?
Yeah, I don't have what are you talking, like a special meeting or something like that?
A workshop,
plan,
a strategic planning, either, you know, Saturday morning or Sunday morning or one night during the week.
So it'd be a special meeting, it would just be us, right? And we could
Well,
just,
if you're not discussing business, it's not really a meeting.
well, but strategic planning for the future, that would be.
If you're
Let me look into the legality of
Yeah,
that.
there
Let
you
me
go.
see what
Well,
we can do.
I mean, we could do it, it just
Cost.
depends on whether we felt, if we
If it
need
has to be an open
open
session or not,
meeting
right.
or of a closed session, I think,
Okay.
Pat, did you
I'm all
have?
for it, I'm all for
something
talking
to-
about future stuff.
And who would be a facilitator and what that cost would be? That's,
We would have, I think it would be more beneficial to us to have an outside person lead
yeah.
this
without a doubt.
to it, and so we can find out what it would cost for a 2 or 3 hour session.
Yeah.
And, you know, we would have to guide her on what we want. You
Maybe
know,
somebody from Toy. No?
if somebody from Troy has the
Well, we
capability.
would just need
if they're-
somebody that knows township government, you know what I mean? Like, right? I mean.
I don't think
No.
that's as important as somebody that is familiar in leading these sessions.
Okay, well, something that I'll look into. We
And I
would
can
probably
help
want to
you.
do it in the dead of winter sometime when
Right,
everybody's
yeah.
got some time to do that, okay?
Yeah,
So
and I can
maybe
help you
January,
look for a
February or something.
facilitator.
All right, let me see what I can find out too. All right, we have a guest who's been sitting here forever.
We should
We
take
are
that.
all over this agenda right now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just-
I know. Yeah, I just don't want that.
Yeah, let's go to the audit.
Yeah. Can we? So I know that many of you, as new trustees, are, and even returning people, have probably some questions about the audit process and so forth. So, welcome. Thank you. Introduce yourself to the crowd and give us a little background of your history with us, maybe.
Sure. My name is Ed Tracy. I'm the audit partner on your engagement. I'm with Selden Fox. We've been doing your audit for, I think, the last 3 years, and then there was a period of time before that we did it for a number of years as well. So we've been on, and then there was a rotation, and then we're back. The township is required to have an audit by state statute, so we're brought in to review the financial statements. We take a look at your internal controls. We perform kind of like what's called walkthroughs of some transactions to see that the internal controls are being followed. But an audit's doesn't issue an opinion on internal control. We issue an opinion on the financial statements and whether they're fairly presented in accordance with the governmental accounting rules. Again, our audit's intended to provide reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented. We look at things from a materiality perspective, so typically if something's below a materiality level, we spend little or no time on those areas and focus on the areas that are significant. When we talk about materiality, typically you're looking, I mean, it's pretty low. It's typically like 2% of assets or 1% of revenues. So it's not a lot that's kind of falls below that level, but there is certainly a materiality level involved. And as part of the audit, we come in, we take a look, we confirm balances with third parties, whether it's bank balances or investment balances, things like that. We look to supporting documentation to see that transactions are properly supported. We reconcile subsidiary ledgers, subsidiary detail to the general ledger to make sure those are in balance and are complete and accurate in terms of all transactions getting recorded. And if we do find any errors or any misstatements or misclassifications, we do propose adjustments to correct those. And then the end result is then we issue the annual financial report. We also issue a complete report online for the Comptroller's Office, which is kind of a summarized version of that annual financial report. And within that annual financial report, we do issue an opinion on the financial statements. The opinion for the township was an unmodified opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that we can give that the financial statements are fairly presented. There's really two sets of financial statements within the audit report. There's a government-wide financial statements, and those are your first two schedules, and they include the difference between those and what's called the fund financial statements is the government-wide kind of looks at it as a whole rather than looking at the general fund, mental health fund, general assistance fund separately. It kind of consolidates them as a whole. It also looks at things on a more of a long-term perspective, so you have your fixed assets on the books that then get depreciated over time. You have long-term liabilities like your net pension liability with IMRF, which is put on the books as a liability, and over time that gets paid down. So those types of things show up on the government-wide financial statements. The fund financial statements are more what you're used to seeing on a monthly basis. Your general fund, as I said before, your mental health and general assistance funds. So we take a look at, so there's really two sets of financial statements. And just kind of as a quick summary of how the financial year was for the township. All funds reported revenues over budget and expenses under budget. Yay. That's obviously, it's an indication that you're good stewards of your money. You're not exceeding your budgets. The budgets are in place. It's a legal restriction, and the township had adhered to that. Also, the general fund did report a small loss this year, but that was much less than what was budgeted for. And at the end of the year, your fund balance in the general fund was still about 100% of your annual expenses, so it's still really a strong fund balance, strong position. And the other two funds also, those two funds both reported small income for the year and are carrying fund balances, again, close to 75 to 100% of your annual expenses. So those funds are also in solid financial position. Revenues last year were pretty constant with where they were the year before. I mean, most of your revenue comes from property taxes, and you set that levy ahead of time, and there's not significant collection issues in your township, so you pretty much have a good idea where your revenue's at. Expenses were up a little bit from the prior year, but again, much less than the budget allowed for. So at the end result was a strong year, a solid year for the township, and going forward, you're still in a strong financial position.
Okay, I have a question, because I'm going to ask it before Trustee Heilenbach does, because he asked all my questions before I did. So in the report, there's a significant deficiency.
Right.
And I think that we just want to know where that is and how do we correct it.
Well, what that is as part of our audit, we're required to evaluate the management's in-house capability in terms of preparing complete and accurate set of financial statements, including all the related disclosures and notes that go along with that. Nearly all of our clients are of the size where they don't have the financial capacity, or it's not in their best interest to put their financial assets in that direction, to have the in-house expertise to do that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're brought in to help with that process. You do have an outside accounting firm that helps with the monthly closings and all that, and that helps. We do have to prepare some adjustments to convert some of those records, because some of that's on more of a cash basis, so we do have to do some converting of those records to get to the financial reporting basis that you're required to use. And then we also have to kind of do some work with the net pension liability. That's kind of a more complex transaction. So we do make those. So whenever we have some adjustments like that, we're supposed to include that disclosure. I will tell you that 95% of our clients have that same comment. Do I think it's a significant concern? Well, it says it's a significant deficiency, so I better watch my words. Do I think it's a real concern? No, I don't. I think you guys have, by using the outside accountants to help with your monthly closings and all, that certainly alleviates a lot of the concerns. We do, because we do make some adjustments, we're kind of by our standards required to have that comment. It's a comment that came about, it's a standard, I should say, that came about when there was a lot of high-profile fraud cases and just misleading of investors, these big Fortune 500 companies. So they put the standard in. It's really geared towards those larger companies that have the financial capacity to have all that expertise in-house. But it's an audit standard. It applies to any entity that's audited.
Other questions?
Besides that, that's just what you just said was a CPA involved in your township hall, which is standard. I work for an accounting firm also. That is very standard. That's something that's in there all the time. Is there anything that your firm saw that we can improve upon going forward? Or are we doing very, very well, which I would assume we probably are.
Yeah, no, I don't, there wasn't anything, any other, significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we saw that we felt needed to be addressed, needed to be taken care of. Again, I think you have good controls over the disbursement side of things, and that's really the major thing, because, as I said before, your vast majority, 90-some% of your revenue is property taxes that get wired directly into your account. I mean, there's really not a lot that can go wrong there. On the expense side, you do have some good processes in terms of the approval processes, not only, obviously with the warrants and all, but just sitting here today, I could see the concern with each disbursement in terms of the grants and things like that. I mean, it's obvious that the board is taking that active oversight role. And then also having the accounting firm come in and help with some of the monthly closings and reconciliations and things like that is a good step. And it's not one that we see in all our local governments, and I certainly like to see that when you're working with an organization where they don't have the personnel in-house to do it, and they bring in someone like that to help with that process. I think that's a good step. So I don't have any real concerns now.
That's all I have.
Other questions?
I'm about 18. I'm a businessman. I don't understand this accounting. I just don't. I'm a profit loss guy.
Yeah.
These different funds, it seems like there's a lot of movement, I just don't get it. I gotta tell you.
Governmental accounting is completely different than
It's
private business.
Private business.
Yeah.
So we're 144% of our annual expenditures in the town fund. How are we doing compared to other townships?
In terms of your fund balances, I think you're much stronger than most of them. Townships generally do a pretty good job of watching their expenses, so but I think you guys have done an exceptional job over the years, and your fund balances are, as I said, I mean, typically what we like to see is at least 50% of your annual expenses, and you're up at that 100% range, so that's really strong.
Are we at a point where we would be too high? I mean, should we watch that?
I know that in the past I've had conversations with the board about that, and there's always talk about some of the the building's a 100-year-old building, and, you know, so there is that, it's good to always keep that in mind. I think in the budget, you always kind of budget for, you know, potential projects and things like that, so I think that's good as well to continue to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think you're kind of at near the peak where you want to be. I don't think you want to accumulate too much more fund balance,
So my
at least in the
concern
general
is,
fund.
like, if we see in our probably not too distant future, having to, for example, put a roof on this place, how can we build that fund without looking like we're excessively?
What you can do is if you can commit a portion of the fund balance for a purpose like that. So if you want to set aside within your fund balance, and it's not really taking the money and putting it in a separate account or anything, but really kind of just designating within your financials that, and it's usually done by a resolution, that, you know, the board wants to set aside X dollars or a certain percentage of its fund balance to be set aside and held for future building repairs or something like that. That's one thing you can do. And again, you can do that, and then if something happens down the line, that something changes, you know, it's just a matter of releasing that commitment, yeah.
So basically, that would be our reserve.
Yeah.
Our 12-month reserve.
Yes.
That's a pretty much normal reserve to have. We have $881,000 for spending at the township's discretion on page 3.
Yeah, that's basically your general fund.
That's our budget. That's what we have every year. Is that our payroll, our everything all in?
Yeah, it's anything that's not specific to the general assistance or to the mental health board. Is your other fund is general fund, which is essentially, you know, available for operations.
Right. All right. And then, so you kind of answered that, but if we budget $50,000 for building maintenance, we don't spend it, going forward, we are going to have a lot of expenses. And I was think we should start with that resolution, pulling that money and kind of earmarking it so we do not get accused of hoarding our money or whatever, or spending too much.
Yeah.
The other thing is we have a lot of cash, our reserves are in cash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the vast majority of it.
Cash and CDs.
Is that standard? Is there investment strategies that we could look at?
You want to be, I mean, there are investments, we do see some local governments that do some, investments, maybe some treasuries and, you really want security. Yeah, no, very secure investments. So that is something that I've seen. So unfortunately, I don't have that many clients that have the excess funds to, where it's, benefits them. But there is some people who go that way, CDs. Obviously, there's not a lot of earnings in those types of vehicles anymore. So I do see some, and maybe that's something you balance with the, what you're committing for long-term purposes. You put it in some sort of, treasuries and highly secure vehicles.
We are required by law to have an investment policy, so maybe it's time to revisit that.
Yeah, diversification, right?
Yeah, and you want some diversity. Obviously looking for more return, but at the same time, your security has got to be the most important thing.
It's not our money.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's certain funds that local governments, like pooled investment funds that they have, which typically are utilized by a lot of governments. One had an issue that was a fraud, and some governments lost some significant dollars. It can happen, but I mean that's the only time I've ever heard that in my 20 plus years or whatever. But it can happen.
So again, at page 23, there's the general assistance fund. The balance at the end of the year is $248,000. Is that surplus or is that just rolling over?
The current year increase to that was $50,000, so it's now at $248,000. So that's money that's been levied for general assistance purposes, so it's restricted for those purposes.
So that's not a reserve either, that's,
No, that and the mental health board are only for those purposes, and they can't be, because the taxes were levied for that specific purpose, they can only be used for that specific purpose. I mean, I guess if you have interest income accumulated, you could, in theory, pull that out, but that's, I mean,
We've
that's
always
a,
kept those
yeah,
funds
and that's a,
separate. And the thing is, we could be required to, for example, bury somebody who's on general assistance, and that, you know, that can start putting dents in it fairly quickly
Mhm.
if that should happen.
yeah.
Other questions?
and basically now the reserve concept is helping me out. And the rest of the questions I can kind of answer through experience, I guess.
Ask away, now's your chance.
Yeah, I'm always, and I can leave my card, and people can always email me questions or call me if they have something further.
Responsive, whatever.
If you don't mind, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I leave some.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm sorry that.
Oh, no, that was.
And I also apologize that you made the trip last week.
Oh, that's on me. I don't know why when we had the
You came
conflict.
last week.
Well, I had the conflict in October with another township actually that I already committed to, and Vera was nice enough to let me come this month, and I just was thinking it was the second Tuesday again, and.
And I unfortunately didn't
And
see your email confirming because I was in.
just coming from the office, which isn't very far.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it. And just leave some right there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
I'm good.
All righty, then moving right along. Thank you. Where are we here? I guess mental health would be, you have the report there. Are there any questions about it? You have a couple of reports, actually, because of our delayed meeting. We got,
There's no, we have no meeting in December, but we are going through a strategic planning session with some of the members of our board, trying to figure out if we're allocating the right amounts of money to the agencies or to expand it based on our community needs survey. So that's where we're going on that for right now.
okay. Very good. Are there any questions?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm new to this, so, we got this really nice UCP Seguin breakdown. I love that, that's great. Could we get something like that? There's nothing in here from Pillars.
Should be. Pillars,
Might have been in another report.
they all send a report, the same thing. Let me,
Yeah, I think we got something from Pillars maybe in last month's packet.
Well,
I know that Marjorie prints out everything that she gets. I can assure you that we get everything from each one of our agencies.
I'll look and see if maybe something was left on my desk and I failed to get it copied for you.
I didn't see anything this.
No,
Yeah,
but
I
I
didn't
think,
see anything.
I think I saw something, I think it may have come while I was out of town and it got buried. Sorry. I will see that you get that information.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Each one sends the same thing, same
Yeah.
format. Every month they should.
Okay.
They do.
If we can kind of just run through rather than leaving to the end, I think the discussion on the town hall room rental policy might take us a little while. Why don't we run through the rest of the agenda? Grasso Graphics, we just put that information under new business C. We did have a section, well, we discovered that we've always been missing a certain section of Hollywood, apparently with the newsletter, because of the way the postal routes are. They've now been put, the printer has added the extra route there, but we printed according to the belief of how many we needed. so we would be short there. It would cost extra. We did put the newsletter on the website, so people can read it there, but we did miss Tim's neighborhood. You know, and you probably spent the better part of a day trying to analyze the postal maps and try to find some logic in it, and there wasn't any. That, you know, they really, some of the maps look a lot like the gerrymandered legislative districts, you know, it's like these postal employees, no wonder they go postal on us, you know.
Now, I have a question though.
Yes.
To Trustee Clark.
Yes.
So when it was delivered to you, did you get 1 or did you get 4?
I think I got 1.
For the building?
For the building. It would have to, in order to get 4, they would have to have the apartment numbers on each one of them.
Yeah.
But they came completely it was just postal, you know, just postal delivery. You may have had a barcode when you got yours, but it went from the printer delivered to the post office for all of these delivery areas. And so it really is on each individual carrier to get it into every mailbox in that. They should have had them.
I'll ask my neighbors.
Thank you.
If
you can follow up on that.
Yeah.
There's any questions we have like that. Now, we do have some overspill because some of those postal carrier routes also go beyond the township, so some people outside the township get to be jealous about it, you know.
Maybe they'll move in.
But we've had very good positive response on the mailer, so. I also had one resident who always has a comment about everything, tell me actually at the senior party that that was very lovely, but we should not use glossy paper because it's very hard to recycle. We should use certified recycled paper, and we should use soy ink, so.
Put the union bug on it.
I can tell you exactly who said that.
I bet you can. We all know who certain residents, you know.
Yeah, that's what, those were good
But we did, I mean,
suggestions.
and it's, you know, they're valid points. I will see if that would increase our costs greatly, but we've also had all kinds of, we did get an uptick in nurses' closet. We got some more inquiries about other kinds of assistance. Food pantry, we got a few new people. So, yeah, I mean,
So it
it's,
really made a
we
huge
definitely have
difference.
reached out, and I've had a lot of direct commentary from people about, didn't know you did that, and didn't know you did that. And so, you know, it's been really, really good in that regard. Also, because we included things like the radio players, we're grateful that we included them as a mention as part of the programs that we support. So, and, you know, putting in their dates, their upcoming dates, it was like, oh, great, you know. So I don't know if they had an uptick in participation, but that's always.
When's the next one then?
Next newsletter? We'll have to figure that out. We have to gather enough information, figure out what the focus will be next time, probably featuring certain programs, maybe some pictures of some of the things that are available, or a typical, typical collection that is in food pantry bag or things like that. That is up to this board. You know, it's been done, not quite quarterly, I think it's been about 3 times a year lately. And so sometime early in next year, I guess, would be a good time to do it again. Okay. Preliminary tax levy, there is some information there from our accounting firm that just basically does it mathematically. The Mental Health Board did a nice job of, you know, they've submitted their request for the levy, and they did a nice analysis. The CPI is higher than it was. It's 2.1%. So you have some calculations there. Just presuming that would also take into account some new development. There's not a lot, but there's a little bit of new development in the township. So you can see the numbers if you want to look them over and digest them. Make any inquiry. I don't know that all of you had a lot of time to look over this, but it shows then also what we actually collect. And, the thing is, no matter if people have freezes or whatever, I mean, we ask for a block of money, and they'll figure out the way to do it. I mean, I don't think we need to look, we just heard we're in good financial shape. We certainly don't need to look at increasing in any way, but we should probably not pass up the opportunity of the
Yeah, it's a
CPI.
missed opportunity, absolutely.
That would be a missed opportunity, and when that roof collapses, or not collapses, but when it needs replacing, or the bridge needs painting, or whatever our next project is, we're going to need the funds to do that, and that only comes from taxpayer money, so. And some limited investment opportunities. So I don't know if you want to discuss that at all today, if you want to digest it, and then we will put it on next month's agenda, because we have to pass it then. It has to be filed by the 4th Tuesday in December.
Okay, so it's going on next month for the approval.
Well, we don't have any grants that time, so
Yeah, okay.
so we should have plenty of time to discuss it then. Okay? Some of the FYI, please note that we had requested that the North Riverside Senior Group give us a little bit more information about how they spend their money. So this was the response that I got. That's in the first point of the FYI. And
How many participants are there?
they get a pretty good turnout for most of their events. I would say 80 to 100 probably in a lot of their events. Yeah, they have a pretty active group. And then you have information, again, just for your information, on the increase that we got on the health insurance. And also there is an email exchange that I included. The staff had to pursue Blue Cross Blue Shield to find out what our increase was going to be. It would have been coming up, and we had gotten absolutely no notice because we haven't been represented by any agency in a long time. So I just called upon the agent that I use for my health insurance just to inquire. I know that they work with small groups, and that's definitely what we are. So their proposal, it would have absolutely no increase in our costs, but if we put them down as the agency of record, then we would be able to call them when we have inquiries about what kind of an increase are we getting, or how is, what are the claims processes, or, any information like that. They would do an annual review of the plan, including telling the employees how it works, because nobody's talked to them in years. And finally, there are certain compliance issues which, if we haven't had an agent, aren't happening. So if this board approves, I would say that we should ask the Midwest Certified Insurance Agency to be the agency of record. They would send me a form for me to sign. It's that simple. Again, it doesn't increase our cost, but it increases our service.
I think that's a great idea, and I think it's especially important to have a session with the employees to review what they have.
Right.
That's what.
Okay.
This is a group plan, there's 2 members in it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and it's a transition, so it's a temporary until...
Well, it's transitional in that that's simply the term that the industry uses. They're not in the ACA, and most of the traditional plans don't exist anymore, so this is somewhere in between. They do have an HMO, so it's a typical thing. If the government chooses to make some changes to how insurance is provided, then we would probably, this type of plan would then disappear, but right now we don't have.
Now, I know that, the 80-20 split and that kind of thing wouldn't be applicable, but would we be able to get insurance through this group? Not being subsidized whatsoever, but signing up for that insurance rather than other insurance?
I can inquire, I'm really not sure.
So, I mean,
I know that I've been on government boards where that was a possibility for the trustees.
Yeah.
So, if you pay it yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we could treat some differently by not subsidizing than others, so
Right.
I'll look into that.
Are you looking for a vote on this now, or?
Since we would be, signing a contract, I would appreciate a motion for, I mean, we've already started paying, because November 1st was the first premium increase, but in order for us to have an agency of record, I would appreciate a motion on that.
Okay, so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're not spending money, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion is carried. All righty, let's see. And you have in your packets, North Riverside is having a Illinois Bicentennial flag raising ceremony on Monday, the 4th of December at noon. So if any of you are available, you've all been invited to come and join, because the state is apparently doing a new flag for the bicentennial, so, for its birthday. And I think that, yeah, that's coming up in 2018. So that's just for your information. And back to discussion of the town hall room rental policy. As you see, I didn't really draft policy. It's quite a daunting thing to seriously, I mean, it's like every time I start working on it, 14 other things come up. So I've been trying to make some notes about where we should go with it. And it's definitely stamped draft, so that nobody thinks that it's actually a done deal.
So this that's in our packet is the old.
That's the old stuff, and then what I have given you that says draft, what I gave you this evening that says draft across it, those are some of the things that I started drafting, and then it was like, okay, well, let me just deal with some of these issues the way we can. And because the way the format sets up is 4 pages, you have a page for notes if you like there. But, I mean, a lot of it is beyond our control. The village has to control the, who must have a license, who doesn't. Everybody has to apply at least to serve it here, to, so that they know it's being served. But they require the village requires liquor liability, and certainly we would as well. So it's kind of a matter of, we don't seem to have people here to talk about it, so it's a matter of us figuring out which way we should go.
The point that stood out to me was that private events do not require a liquor permit. Only public events.
Right,
So
and that is in the information accompanying this, yeah, right.
Where's your draft?
So if they're having if there's a wedding, I mean, that seems like the biggest hurdle in our way is kind of out of our way. So if it's a public thing where they're having a seminar and all sorts of people come and they need the liquor permit. But for a wedding or something like that, the village is not going to require a liquor permit.
But they're still gonna require liquor liability.
But they still want the liability insurance.
Yeah.
So that would, I mean, we could cover that by, okay, you're renting the place, if you're gonna have alcohol, look, here's what you have to do. So
There's
it
your
would be part of
insurance.
the hoops we make them go through right away, refer them to the village for that as well. Because I think both the township and the village need to be named.
Cohesive on the two.
And I thought our lawyer also said that we have to take votes
On each one, each event.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. which means, and that's something I didn't put here, because it would have to be voted on each time, they would have to apply in a timely manner.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
look, the weddings, right, and stuff like that, and
Right.
October 13th, 2018.
I know it's gonna be in Texas, so don't give me that. I know she already picked a venue, so don't start with me.
I think with the security, we should make sure it's an approved security company that we approve of. You know, I don't want Uncle Charlie coming out,
Right.
you know, oh, Uncle Charlie's our security and he's.
Right, and there again, I think, and I didn't put it here, but we should probably give them a list of approved vendors. Or, you know,
For off-duty local police
Right.
officers.
and I don't know how many of them do that anymore.
Yeah,
That
I'm
used-
not
that
sure
used
if
to be-
that could be taboo with the chief.
Well, I
I
don't
did
know,
smell something about
local-ish.
burning.
Maybe
at
not
the
from
townhouse.
Riverside,
Yeah.
Something
You do
smells like
smell
it's
it, right?
food.
It does smell like something's burning, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it smells like something's burning. It's-
That's me thinking. That's
It
the,
smells like food.
It does smell like it's,
it's popcorn, right?
I don't know.
it does.
I don't know if somebody brought something in upstairs or walked through or smoked and then walked through the hall.
It does smell like something was on the stove and they burned it.
Nobody should be using the stove, but,
They don't have.
There's a group upstairs though, right?
yeah, but I don't think they were using the kitchen. I'd have to check who it was tonight.
Maybe they brought in their own stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, I'm sorry, I smelled it. So, security, I think, yeah, we get a security I think we should decide on that once we get to that point. you
Right,
know,
right. Get
To somebody to go with.
Yeah,
you know.
suggest some possibilities of who to
Yeah.
call upon, right?
One of the questions I have
Now I got it, drafted over here just
Yeah.
now.
is, how are we gonna determine the priority of the uses? I mean, is it first come, first serve, or do the normal nonprofits and other stuff that normally use this, do they have first priority? Or is it just, first come, first serve?
Well, I would say that, I mean, those who meet here regularly file like a whole calendar,
Yeah.
their whole year or 6 months or whatever in advance. So I would say obviously those should have priority. We probably have those penciled in even before. It does smell like burnt toast. So, yeah, I would say in that case, yes, that would be priority. I'm thinking that we're probably looking at different hours for most
Yeah.
of these events. They're going to be the weekends and they're going to be the evenings more so, although groups meet here in the evenings all the time. We also may want to consider whether, we may need to have some additional part-time staff or something, because we may not be able to, in some cases, we may want to have somebody, especially at the beginning, on duty, and certainly I would do that as much as possible.
I think there is interest in the community from a volunteer standpoint, to where we could probably form a committee, or a commission technically, of 3 to 5 to 6 people who are interested in doing that. It's kind of like, I feel like they feel it would be a resume booster,
Yeah.
looking to get back into the workforce.
That's a possibility. I think we have to be careful as we start forming more and more
Yeah.
committees and commissions, because then you start having even more that are subject to open meetings and things like that.
Well, I'm just saying that
Right.
we don't need to go out and hire someone immediately. I think there's enough volunteer.
No, I agree. If it develops, and
Right.
certainly I would start out with just internal people doing it. And we have at least one custodian who's always willing to do some overtime and come in and make sure that things are running.
Once again, that could be something we discuss in our marketing strategy session.
Yeah.
All right. On the cleanup, you say the general rule is that building users should leave the facility as they found it. A security deposit may be required. I think we should require that.
Okay, yeah,
Absolutely.
will be required.
And
rather
that's
than maybe.
something that we can discuss when we're
Sure,
strategizing on that, the prices and how much
right,
as we go forward, but absolutely, because,
right. Okay, I'll strike
one
the may
stain
and make
ruins
it
the rug,
will.
as my mom would say.
Yeah,
Or isn't there that saying, leave it cleaner or,
Yeah.
Leave the facility as you found it, or better.
or better,
Yeah.
right, I think we should put
Right.
that as, I know that's the rule at the scout cabin.
Yeah, and I would also be in favor of maybe, looking into a third shift cleaning crew coming in after, like, let's say there's a
So that it
wedding.
doesn't sit until Monday or something.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right, so the wedding or whatever ends here at, 11 o'clock at night, that cleaning crew comes in at, 2 AM and make sure that everything's all good for Sunday at 5 AM when so-and-so's getting up down the street for their cup of coffee, and nothing, everything's spotless in here, it doesn't sit in here, it doesn't smell in here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the people that are renting it would have to pay for that, that would be part of the fee.
That would be part of the fee.
The
Well, it's
fee.
not tell them that, cause then they'll leave it trash, right?
Well,
Oh, we have to clean up
but I would say
But
make
what's
the
the
security deposit big enough so that it'll pay for that crew, if,
Oh,
you know.
Well, yeah, so, no, so.
Oh, you mean, so besides that,
Yeah, no.
charge a cleanup for any bigger
Well,
event?
they need to
no,
wash
don't
the
get me wrong.
floors.
I think that we could structure the fee that the security and the cleanup and a whole bunch of other stuff is included in the fee price set, you know what I
And
mean?
the rental of the room.
Exactly. Now, this cleanup this security deposit, if you left it in not terrible shape, then you get it back, right? I mean, it's
Right.
just like any other place, I mean, you're not gonna trash it. I mean, if you're gonna trash it, then we're gonna keep your security deposit.
Okay.
And maybe make you pay for the damages and stuff.
That's the other thing that I'm concerned about, if you have somebody that gets just a little out of control and is having such a good time, that our security deposit doesn't cover that. Now, I'm wondering if the dram insurance that they would have to have for liquor, would that cover any damages? No.
Nope.
So do we
Nope,
need them to get an insurance policy?
That only covers somebody leaving here drunk and hurting somebody or
So how do
whatever.
we protect our assets in here if somebody decides to break a mirror or something like that?
Well, if there's alcohol served, we're already saying we want security personnel on.
Right, but
Right.
no, I get it, but what happens if, okay, so security guard's watching this guy, he goes in the bathroom, breaks a mirror, okay, then he gets kicked out because security kicked him out, fine.
We've
But
already-
who's
we've
fixing
got
the mirror?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tears the stall off,
Yeah.
the bathroom.
Oh my God.
Worried
who's
about-
Not that I've never seen that happen.
Well, worst case scenario.
Oh, we had this
let's put it
classy
on.
location.
I want to make sure that we're going to be able to recoup
Yeah.
any
Exactly.
damages from those people, whether it be they have to sign a waiver saying that the people that are renting the room have to,
Yeah, we could.
be
we could have some-
responsible
yeah.
for any damages of the, greater than the security deposit.
Yeah, we could make that part of the contract, that they sign that if there's any extraordinary damage not covered by the security deposit, that they will be charged.
Yeah,
Then
absolutely.
we have to get a credit card number.
Yeah.
One of the things too I'm worried about is people going up to the third floor, or, coming down here, or, I don't know, does the basement have a door where it gets locked?
It's locked, yeah.
Okay,
You can't get
okay.
past this, you can get out of the elevator, but you can't go any farther unless.
What
you're-
about the third floor, are those,
Third floor, I think we could lock, I think we can lock room 30. And, everything else is locked there. That's the only room that's a pass-through. So
Okay.
let me double check. If we can't currently, I'm almost positive that those doors on both sides lock.
can be locked, okay.
Right,
All right.
because, then the assessor's office and all of the
Yeah.
storage areas up on that floor are locked.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
See, I thought of that too, but I'm also worried about, I don't want people drifting
Right, yeah.
throughout the building. So I'm
Right.
wondering, can we take off the third floor on the elevator? Is there a way that we can flip a switch and say you can't get access to the third floor? And we can put some type of a barricade or barrier?
No, I locked the stairwell door, right, to going up to the third floor.
Security
So-
will help with that, events with security will.
Well, but security
Yeah, but
also
that's
can't
us.
be everywhere at the same
Yeah,
time,
they're not
right?
gonna
So,
be.
I said it will help, I don't think it'll completely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's an old elevator. I don't know if it has the capability of cutting off a given floor at any time.
Locking it off.
Yeah. If you can flip that switch on the elevator and then lock the door on the stairwell, then problem solved.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what, because sure enough, there's gonna be somebody that wants to have their own private party up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right,
leave the
so
party
if you,
and-
right, but there's no way to get up there if you lock the stairwell door to the third floor, and if you switch the elevator to the third floor.
That'd be great, then
Then you can't do it.
you can't do it.
What I'd like to do is take a look around, you know, and familiarize myself with this before we go much further, and then give some reports back to Vera on it, of, do those doors lock? Can we do this with the elevator? Because that does, and you know, the basement, so on and so forth. And that's something that I think that I absolutely could do before, you know, our next meeting, and just make some recommendations. And I suggest that we all do that, because we want to do it right the first time.
Right, yeah.
And this is just, I mean, you know, we just got this, you know, this evening.
I apologize for that.
You don't need to apologize, you're a busy lady. But we're looking at this now, you know, fresh eyes, first time. What we need to do is now digest it and maybe do a little scout around and see what's what. And then come back, and this will be a continuing thing for the next couple of months. And since we don't have too many grants in December and so on and so forth, we should be able to, you know, have move forward on this a lot further, I think.
Right.
Do we wanna look around together as trustees, or do we wanna look around individually as trustees, or do we wanna do it before?
Might want to do
next-
both, you know?
If
Everybody do
you
their
know,
own
if somebody's
thing.
around, I mean, you know, if you're available during the week, I myself, it won't be till the end of next month when I'm gonna be available during the week. But, you know, on the weekend, you know, Saturday morning, you know, come on over here. You know, just to scout around a little bit, you know. I was young once. I found every way I could get into a building, so.
I have a couple things. One is, are we gonna restrict it to township residents only?
I think we definitely have to give them priority. On other rentals, I would probably be reluctant to do too much of that. If it's a nonprofit or something and they're not actually based in the township, but they have members here, something like that, I could see it. But for private rentals, I'd be reluctant to do that. I know that some had, you know, some of the information that I gave you previously did indicate in township, out of township, but kind of, I think baby steps would be better.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we could expand to if we wanted to later, but we're really here to serve the township.
Right.
That's what
yeah.
this
The building
township
is for
hall
the
is
township.
for. And as we discussed briefly before the meeting started, you know, let's say that Tom's daughter's getting married. Tom can come. He's a township resident.
Right.
And we can move that down, but I really do think that we should. It has to be a township resident at least.
Requesting it.
And it has to be.
Standing behind it, yeah.
Standing behind it,
Right.
exactly.
Well, I have my trade association, I go back to that a lot, because we have an event every 8 days. And all, I know, trust me, it's crazy. And that's meeting space, and we need meeting space. And the village hall, this would be awesome. We'd have a big keynote speaker room, then we'd have little rooms to break out into, and we come back for lunch to be served in the main auditorium. So I think, you know, we're thinking about random people having a wedding from Darien. Well, sure, we're not necessarily
Right.
But
again, you're talking an organization versus, you know, private
And you're
parties.
part of this organization, you're a
Right.
township resident, so you would be the one that would reserve the room.
Maybe public-private, I don't know, 'cause I mean, we're not the only trade association, or the only association in the state. There's 100,000 of them.
Right, well,
And
and
they're not the only ones looking for meeting space. So I think for the idea of having parties, having weddings and that kind of thing, I could understand trying to restrict it, but as far as having a seminar from a bunch of landscapers sitting in a room talking about the newest fungicide, you know, I wouldn't, it's fun.
Josiah.
But I would suggest that we find a way not to restrict ourselves just to local parties and local issues.
And those are daytime events on weekdays?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should.
And is there alcohol served? I mean, those are the kinds of things that we probably, even now, especially if it's during the business week, we've already, I mean, I know that there have been, you know, associations that have utilized the building. If there was some kind of a connection to the township, you know, whether they serve people here or, you know, somebody on the board, you know, is connected to it or supports it heavily or whatever, so.
I mean, if you have that, if you have 180 landscapers sitting up there, they need it to be catered. You know, they need, so I hopefully we can find a way to encourage that kind of use of the building. Okay. And not necessarily say, hey, anyone want to have a party, come to Riverside.
Right.
But there is a market for meeting space,
Right.
so I would say.
Well, again, like if there's members and if it moves around all over the place, we probably couldn't accommodate them every time they're meeting.
Right.
But on a rotation basis, we could
Once
do
a year,
it once or twice a year. And you have local landscapers that are part of it, or local plumbers if they're doing that, whatever. I mean, I could see justification for it, but again, we have to make sure that the utilization of the building doesn't impair the building in any way, and that it's made available, that it doesn't take away from the actual residents.
Right.
Because that's part of it too, because during the day, there's stuff going on here all the time. I mean, you know, that calendar fills up all the time, and we'll have, and the village uses it too. I mean, they sometimes don't give us as much notice as we'd like, but they often have a meeting that they forgot to book. So, you know, we need to, we're neighbors here. We have to accommodate each other. There's, you know, we have a yoga group, we have the seniors that meet here, we have a bridge organization that meets here. There's stuff going on all the time in here. So, you know, I don't want to make it so that it's really going to need a completely new staff person just to manage the building use. I'd like to take baby steps on it, you know, and I think we need to see what interest there would be.
Maybe we can limit the amount of large events, like these events with alcohol or something like that, to maybe like once a month, 12 a year or something like that, or just put a limitation on it, at least just for the first year. So say, hey, any kind of huge, I don't know if you want to do numbers, like anything over, I don't know, 300 people.
Whatever the capacity is.
I don't think we have a room that really 300 people could be in.
Right, so I don't know,
Right.
you know, or, you know what, or limit it like, you know, up to 12 applications that we're gonna accept that has alcohol per year. You know what I mean? We could do that. Whatever you want to do it, but you were just saying that the trade association, they would sell alcohol, so they wouldn't fall into the thing. Mm-hmm. But I think that we should limit the amount, the number in the first year and see how that goes.
I think a lot of, at the discretion of the board, wording should be included at first.
There certainly should be, but we also have to be careful not to sound discriminatory about it. That when it's all within our discretion, then it sounds like we get to pick and choose, and somebody will decide it's because their hair was red that we said no, or whatever, you know.
What I'm getting at is maybe for Riverside Township residents or other events that the board might, I mean, we can make it for Riverside resident or township residents, but if there's that wording saying, or on a special case-by-case basis, other applications will be considered from outside groups.
Why don't we start out with just maybe people from the township?
Yeah.
Get a feel?
Yeah.
And
This
then,
is their building.
And see how
like I
busy
said
it
before.
is. We may find that, you know, once people realize, oh, it's available, that we're gonna get a lot of utilization.
We could get slammed, yeah.
yeah, that's what,
That's why we put a number on it.
we might need to for the first 6 months or something, and then revisit the issue.
Yeah, yep.
One prosaic point would be under parking.
Yes.
I mentioned that their local organizations that have parking lots that could be used.
Right, well,
I think she covered
Did
I
that.
you
did.
look down that you were?
Yeah, she did
Yeah.
have that, yeah, she would
yeah,
look
then
into that.
In italics, I have that I'd be talking to those, to kind of smooth the way that you may be approached by people who are gonna be using the building. I mean, I don't want everything to be the first blush that the resident has to go to them. I'd like to, kind of
And
work
there's
that
there's
out.
street parking, you know.
Pardon?
The Riverside Swim Club would love to participate in that.
Would they? Okay.
And then we need to figure out our fee structure.
Right.
What is,
I figured it was too early to figure that
Yeah,
one
that
out
we're
right-
way
right now.
ahead of
I thought there
ourselves
were
on that.
just too many moving parts yet, but I
so-
wanted, yeah.
So step one in figuring out our fee structure would be figuring out what our costs would be, the cleaning, the
Sure.
security, the insurance, that kind of thing. So we need to start figuring that out.
Okay, on to the warrants.
Yes. Trustee Drapka, you wanna?
I do. I move that the board authorize and ratify payment of the bills identified on the general warrant, November 2017, in the amount of $33,238.53 as presented to the board on the 21st day of November 2017.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any questions? Then Clerk Blau, would you please take the vote?
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right. I move that the board ratify and authorize payments of the amounts indicated on the following warrants. Utility warrant, in the amount of $801.63. Payroll warrant, $21,345.06. Health warrant, $1,675.90.
There's two there. There's two.
Yeah. Petty cash in the amount of $99.51. Food pantry in the amount of $18.45. General assistance warrant in the amount of $4,700. Township radio players warrant in the amount of $936.30. And another food pantry warrant in the amount of $2,620.51.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
The flat grants, is that an average number? Are we above on those?
Well, I set the limit, at a previous meeting, and the flat grants are the same. Yeah, the flat grants are all the same. Emergency assistance is, may be higher.
Yeah, it just looks like a big number, bigger than normal.
Well, it was this time because we had, bailed somebody out of getting evicted, so. And here's the other reason why it's bigger, is because we went an extra week. So you're not having 1 month, you're having about a month and a half of grants. So some of those were given to the same person, 2 months, yeah. Okay. Then I have a motion and a second. Please call the vote.
Trustee Lufer?
Yes.
Trustee Hollenbach?
Yes.
Trustee Drapka?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilt?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.